Wilkinson, the director of DiRAC, and very pleased to have you all here for today. On the screen you have all the sponsors who have made today possible. I won't name them all because all the logos are there, many of them have stands outside. What I would say is please go and talk to the sponsors. They've come today to find out about what it is that we do with the computers that they sell us. And so they are genuinely interested in hearing about the science that we're doing, which is the point of today. So please do go and talk to them, find out what they're doing, what kind of, how their products might be able to help in terms of the research that you're doing. Engage with them, because I'll talk more about that in the rest of the talk, but it's very important we do that. It's part of how we build the DiRAC systems is through engagement with industry. So if you talk to one of the vendors and you find actually there's something that you think would be particularly good, come and tell us, because we'd like to know. We're looking out for the new directions that we should be focusing on within our DiRAC. Actually, maybe it would be helpful. Could all the vendor representatives stand up, please? Just so that everybody, don't worry, I'm not doing it. Yeah, okay. If all the vendors stand up, these are people, so that gives you some faces to talk to. I won't say who to, but please go and talk to them. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. The program today is here, so you have to listen to me for about half an hour. And then we go into science talks for the rest of the morning, and then in the afternoon there's a mixture of talks from the vendor community, some science talks, and talks from the hackathon that was yesterday. And so before I'll explain how the morning session was put together, but the thing I like, DiRAC Day is actually one of the highlights of the year for me, because it's the day when a lot of the meetings that I have to go to in order to get the money to keep DiRAC running don't involve even mentioning the science. It's more just we do a lot of interesting science and then you move on. So this is the day where I get to hear about all the things that you've been doing on the system, and that's really exciting. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the day. And I apologise, you have to, in order to get to the interesting bit, you have to sit through the next half an hour. Which brings me nicely to the director's report. So the way we put the program together for the morning was, earlier in the year, as you know, there was a discretionary call put out, and this was essentially, we had new hardware and we wanted to have some large calculations done in the first few months as soon as it was turned on. So we held a competition in January, and it was 3 times oversubscribed. Apologies to those of you who didn't get time, because essentially everything that came in, it would have been great to support it, we just didn't have enough core hours. So there were 45 million core hours were requested, we had 15 available to allocate, and 6 projects were given time, and essentially representatives of those 6 projects are talking for the rest of the morning, so you get to hear what was done with the new equipment. The good thing was they all did what they said they would do, and they all did it in the time they said they would do it, so it all worked. So for anyone in the room who doesn't know what DiRAC is, why are you here? No. Because there may be another conference and you may be in the wrong room. So DiRAC, it's the distributed HPC facility for theoretical astrophysics, particle physics, cosmology, and nuclear physics. So we've got 4 sites providing 3 services: extreme scaling in Edinburgh, memory intensive in Durham, and data intensive at both Leicester and Cambridge. And the approach we've always taken to designing the systems is key, and this is one of the things that has helped to make DiRAC such a success as a facility. And that is, we start out not by designing the system, we start out by writing the science case. So that's where we've approached many of the researchers in the room and asked what it is you want to do over the next 3 to 5 years. That's written up as a document. It was last done at the start of last year, but we refresh it every few years. And then that gets peer reviewed. Once we've got a peer reviewed science case, we then move on to say, well, if you want to do that science, what kind of systems do you need? And that's where we identify general types of hardware, not specifics, but general types of system or service that we need to provide. That's written up as a technical case, which again is peer reviewed. So we get that externally reviewed in order to ensure that not only have we got a science case that's world leading, we're making sensible decisions in terms of how we're going to try and deliver that science case. And at that point, and in fact all the way through the process, but specifically at that point, we start talking in detail with our industry partners to work out, okay, if we want a system that has this particular characteristic, what are the options? How would we actually deliver it? And your input in the science case, and for those of you who are interested in having input in the technical case, is absolutely vital. That's why DiRAC is such a success as a facility. That's why we're able to support the science that all of you are doing. And what that has led to is the current, that process has led to the systems that we have now. So the extreme scaling system in Edinburgh, also called Tesseract, that's focused on large-scale QCD calculations. And that's essentially for jobs that scale to large numbers of cores. It doesn't have as much RAM per core, but the jobs scale very well, and it's got network topology that supports the lattice QCD calculations. The memory intensive in Durham, that is focused, the use case there was the cosmological simulations that will scale if you have enough RAM per core. And so there's, in that system, there's a 230 terabyte RAM footprint is the largest one it can do. And there's also a flash volume for doing fast checkpointing, and I'll mention that again later. And then we've got the data intensive systems, which are at both Leicester and Cambridge. And these have a range of different architectures, as you know, and they're for a wide range of simulations of various different scales. So it goes from the smaller calculations up to kind of medium size. The big capacity calculations tend to be done, capability calculations are done on memory intensive and extreme scaling. In terms of science impact, there's many ways you can say it. This essentially summarizes all your work in one slide, and this is the kind of slide that we show when we're asking for money. But don't worry, I'm not asking for money today. But there is a box at the back. What you've got here is a plot of the citations from your papers. So essentially, the different colored bars indicate particular years that the citations happened. So what you see here in 2014, these are papers that were published in 2014 that were cited in 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018. So the point of the plot is to show that your papers are getting well cited, that's good. And they're also getting well cited over multiple years, which is better, because it means that it's not just papers that are cited once, or published, cited a lot in the first year, shown to be wrong, and then forgotten about. We're actually having some impact. So of course some of the papers that are in this will be wrong, and that's why they're continuing to be cited, but they're examples of what not to do. But I'm sure none of yours are that. Overall statistics are down the bottom. We had the most cited paper in orbital astronomy, that was from the Virgo group. The Eagle calculations, so in 2015, that was, it's the most cited 2015 paper in orbital astronomy. Now the other thing, so what our main goal obviously is to deliver the science that you're doing, but one of the key reasons why government is keen to fund us is on the impact that we have. So there's a much broader impact that DiRAC has than just the science that we're doing. And so this is a busy slide. The next slide is even busier. The point of these are just to show you the kind of things that are going on, so that if you're interested in getting involved in some of these projects, you know that what the kind of things that we're doing. So we have various projects with industry where we have proof of concept systems, so that's kind of next generation technology, and we're testing to see how that fits into the potential DiRAC workflows. We're also engaged in co-design with industry, so designing next generation systems that will support the science. I think maybe the industry people will disagree, but I hope they won't, that they're interested in working with us, and I think that's demonstrated by the fact that there's so many industry partners in the room today. They invest in DiRAC, they actually engage in many different ways in terms of the projects that we're doing. We're very grateful for that, and I think it's providing a lot of benefit in both directions. What we want to do for you, the DiRAC community, is to make sure that if you want to engage with industry, you can, and it's not too difficult. So if you are, for example, putting in a proposal and you think that it would be relevant to have an industry partner, even if you don't have an industry partner in mind, just let us know, come and talk to us, because it may be that we could suggest someone that might be interested in working with you. Likewise with industry, if you're looking for academics to partner with, do come and talk to us, because we have a large pool of people who are potentially interested. And so what we're keen to do is make it that everybody who wants to work, collaborate between industry and academia can. Not everybody has to. The goal of DiRAC is to deliver the science program, so we need people doing the core science as well. But if you are interested in working with industry, please do talk to us. The other key thing that we do, and I'll say more about this in the next few slides, is we have an extensive training program, and that's again something that the government's very keen on, because you guys go out and work in the future, contributing to the UK economy, and the skills that you pick up during your time with DiRAC are very beneficial to the UK. As I said, I promised there would be an even busier slide. This is basically a list of all the projects that are ongoing. So I'm not going to go through in detail all of them, but just a few highlights. The flash volume at Cambridge topped the IO 500 earlier in the year for the fastest storage system. Data intensive at Leicester, we've got an ARM-based cluster that we're using for testing ARM for HPC. There's a lot of work going on with Intel and others at Edinburgh, and Peter Boyle leads that, developing work around machine learning and next generation hardware. And memory intensive in Durham has several different projects going on. One of the notable ones is the flash volume for checkpointing, which has effectively made the system 13% bigger in terms of the number of compute hours available, because it takes so much less time now to do checkpoints for the simulations. So again, if anything on that slide is of interest to anyone, come and talk to us. And if there are other things you would be interested in doing, please come and talk to us about them. So things that we do in terms of software engineering, the reason for emphasizing this is we're getting to a position where it's harder to exploit the full potential of the compute architectures that are now available. And so we want to make sure that all of your codes are taking full advantage both of the systems that we've got now and the systems that we'll have in the future. There are now, from October, we currently have 3 research software engineers. From October there'll be 5, so there will be more effort available. They're allocated via the DiRAC process, so you apply to use them. But if you'd like time, horrible. If you would like to, if you would like to have some RSE effort to support your project, do come and talk to us, because now over the next few months we'll be increasing the amount of effort available. Again, we do a lot of training workshops. Most of these are things where we point people in the right direction of training. We're not necessarily running them ourselves. We work with Archer and other partners to deliver the workshops. And we also have been running a series of hackathons, which started last year, just this time last year at DiRAC Day in Swansea, and now have carried on through the year. So again, software engineering is something we are going to have a software roadmap which we're developing at the moment within DiRAC, of how we're going to get all of our codes from where they are now to where we need to be in the next couple of years to exploit the next generation hardware. So when we start asking you for input to that, please do engage with it. It's a very important process. It doesn't mean that you have to personally rewrite all your codes. It means that you have to engage with the process that helps that to happen. So sometimes it'll be a case it can be done by the software engineers, but it can't be done in isolation. So it needs you involved just to make sure that the codes that come out at the end, as well as being extremely efficient, also do the science that you want. So the training that we offer, in addition to the software engineering work, is mostly, again, pointing you to training opportunities. So we don't deliver the courses ourselves, and as I said, we work with Archer and others to deliver the courses. We have the DiRAC Essentials course, which is available online, and as most of you know, is compulsory. So I won't say if you would like to do it, do it. If you haven't done it, do it. 1 year. 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 We also organise workshops, and now that we have more funding coming for that, so there'll be more workshops available over the coming year. And some of these we're now going to be able to organise domain-specific workshops, so where we'll be able to focus on a particular either science area or type of code. So keep an eye out on the website for those opportunities. Why do we do this? Several reasons are listed at the bottom, but the key thing is it's to get more science out of the systems that we've got. So there's many other benefits to the training program, but really the key thing is DiRAC exists to support your science work, and the more that we can get out of the systems that we're putting in, the better for everyone. This slide just summarises the hackathons that we've had so far, and there will be more over the coming 12 months. We started last year with an NVIDIA-sponsored hackathon in Swansea just before DiRAC Day. That was so successful, essentially it kicked off this program. So now since then we've had one with ARM, we've had one with Intel around their Optane memory. We've had another one with Mellanox and ARM over the last couple of days, and the results of that will be presented this afternoon. And we now have Richard Regan. Richard Regan, are you in the room? Yeah. Richard Regan, if you stand up and be embarrassed, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Richard Regan. He's the DiRAC training manager, and he's the also an NVIDIA Deep Learning Institute training ambassador. So we'll be using Richard's skills to be able to do more things around training on the NVIDIA direction. What I'd say is, when you see, so we'll be having more of these, please do attend them and come to the talks this afternoon and see what's happened over the last few days. In terms of industry partners, if you would like to have a hackathon, come and talk to us, because we're very keen. They've been extremely useful to the community, and I think they've been useful for the vendors that have participated in them as well, because the goal is we structure them around people working on their own codes, so you get feedback about how our code base works on your system, and it's a very efficient way of identifying issues with either codes or compilers or whatever, and then getting them resolved in essentially a 3-day period. So they've been very successful, and we're delighted that we're going to be able to do more of these in the future. Just to highlight one other opportunity that came up this year, Jeremy Yates put in a bid on behalf of DiRAC to get 8 innovation placements. So these are 6-month placements for PhD or early career postdocs to work with industry partners. In fact, we were given funding for 8. We ended up with 9 projects. So we went back and asked STFC, could we have another one? They very kindly said yes. So 9 have been filled. What I would say, maybe the STFC people shouldn't listen to this, if you, as an industry partner, have an idea for a placement, essentially it's a 6-month project that would benefit from a PhD student or an early career postdoc working on it, come and talk to us, and then we'll go and talk to STFC and see if they could give us a little bit more money to have another one. So also we're hoping that won't be a one-off scheme, so it was kind of windfall money this year, but we're hoping that will be an ongoing thing, and I think there's plans to make it a longer term program. So if you have a project idea, even if it wouldn't be relevant until next year, do come and talk to us, because there might be scope for funding in a future round. A quick word on the RAC process. So this is the Resource Allocation Committee. We made quite a few changes to it this year. So this is the process that essentially decides who gets to use what resources within DiRAC. So we're hoping, we had a lot of feedback on it over the last couple of rounds, and so we made some changes to the documentation, and hopefully it is clearer. If it isn't clear, do tell us, because we're trying to make it obviously the idea is that it tells you what you need to know, so do tell us if it's not clear. One thing I should say is we tried to make it absolutely clear that you have to put in a technical bid earlier than the science bid. So please, a few people didn't pick up on that. Please remember the technical cases go in August, 1st of August, science cases go in on the 1st of October, and you can't submit a science case until you've had a technical review done. On the RSE front, so software engineering, we've tried to improve that by helping to estimate better. If you engage with us in advance, we can give you a better idea of how much time you need to ask for. There's also a webinar on the technical assessment side, so for those of you who haven't put in a technical case before, or for those of you who have and would like to put in a better one maybe, there's a webinar which was done earlier in the year by Andy Turner and Lydia Heck, and it's on the website as well, so if you go and watch that, it talks you through the process of putting the technical one together. There's a seed corn webpage, which is for small allocations. Again, have a look at that. It's a very lightweight process, so if you want a little bit of time to try something out, have a look at the seed corn page. It wouldn't probably take more than half a day to put a proposal together, and the turnaround is very, very quick. The last thing I'd like to emphasize is if you are in a group and you're not the PI either of the group or of the DiRAC bid, do think about putting in your own proposal. So we're having a growing number of proposals from early career people, which we'd really like to encourage. So there's no problem if your group already has an allocation and you want to put in a separate allocation to do something extra, feel free. So, and we'd really encourage you to do that. We've one person in the room that I want to embarrass and one person not in the room. We have two people stepping down from DiRAC this year, sadly. So the first is Peter Boyle, who's sitting here at the front. He's been the technical director of DiRAC since it was founded. He gave us the name, he gave us the logo, but more importantly, he gave us an enormous amount of help and advice and guidance in terms of building the systems and designing the systems that were needed. So I think the whole community, many of the vendors know him as well, obviously, if you've worked with him over the years. And so the whole community owes you a huge debt of gratitude, Peter. So I'd like to propose a vote of thanks from the whole community to Peter. The other person who's not in the room is Lydia Heck, who retired earlier this week. She's been the technical manager for the last couple of years, but also has been working at running the Durham system for DiRAC since DiRAC was founded. So Lydia can't be here today, but I would like to propose again a vote of thanks for all the work that she has done over many years for DiRAC. Another person I want to embarrass has just looked up and seen that she's on the screen. So Deborah Ziyashki from Cambridge, who's the chair of the DiRAC project board, was awarded the Ada Lovelace Prize earlier this year. The citation for it said it was in recognition of her outstanding impact on HPC research and computational science at a global level, and for being a role model for young women beginning their careers in HPC. So it's very well deserved. Many of you know Deborah and know the work that she's done. She presented it last year at DiRAC Day. She's also obviously done a huge amount of work for DiRAC through being chair of the project board. So I'd like to congratulate Deborah. And you'll be glad I'm nearly at the end now. Just to announce that next year's DiRAC Day, the 10th annual DiRAC Day, will be in Durham. So details will follow, and yeah, keep an eye out for that. It'll be around the same time of year, but very grateful to the Durham team for agreeing to do that. So finally, just to say, as I hope I've emphasized on the way through the slides, the main goal of DiRAC is to maximize the science that you do, and the main goal of myself and the rest of the management team is to help you do that, to make sure we get as much science out of the systems as we can. Research software engineering is an important thing to engage with, And so if you're not already doing that, think about it. If you wonder whether research software engineers could help you and make your code more efficient or make it more flexible to use different hardware, ask, because the worst that can happen is they say, no, your code is as good as it could possibly be, and there's nothing we can do. So it's always worth trying it. We provide access to a lot of training, and obviously from software engineering effort, and all of that comes from a number of wide pool of different providers. Really, I would encourage you to engage with the vendors, engage with the software engineering team, because the more flexibility, again, the vendors shouldn't listen to this bit, the more flexibility we have when we're procuring DiRAC 3, the more flexible we can be about what we buy, and that will also then help us in terms of pricing, essentially. So it means you will get more science out of whatever we buy, and we'll be able to buy more of whatever we buy, so please do engage with it. For the vendors, though, as I said, there's value in working with the DiRAC community, and so it's not a one-way engagement. It does work to the benefit of both sides. The last thing I'd say is when you have, we're trying to raise the profile of DiRAC in various different ways. One thing that we need to do is publicize more of the results that we get, so to highlight all the work that you're doing. So if you have an exciting new science result, tell us. Tell us ideally before you put out a press release so that we can coordinate it and get STFC and others to know about it. If you have ideas for DiRAC in terms of science directions, technical directions, or anything else, do get in touch. We'd like to hear them, because then we can, DiRAC has grown from the community, it's run by the community, and it's very good, so we need to know what it is you think we should be doing. Also, if we're doing something wrong, or you think we've missed out on something, or there's an opportunity you really think we need to take advantage of, please do tell us, because that's the best way that we make sure we've got to maintain the close link with the community. That's one of the things that's a great strength of it. You can go to the website, you can follow us on Twitter, or you can email me directly. The easiest way to get a reply from me is to email me directly, because I'm not privy to the Twitter password. So I will just end by saying again, these are the people who have sponsored today. We're very grateful to them for all their sponsorship. And so now I'll hand over to Simon to take you through the rest of the first session's program, so you can hear some science. I'm happy to take a few questions, but otherwise we can get on with the science program, and look forward to hearing what's been done in the last year.